Okay, cool. There we go. Right on. Awesome. Welcome to the Standard Podcast team, where we raise the bar, rebuild the culture, and call out the lies or misconception that nobody else will. This isn't motivation. This is a movement. I'm Thomas Rowe with my host, Aaron Charles, and today we're sitting down with Jeremy Campbell. Jeremy, we've known for quite some time. He's not just an associate. We consider him a friend, and he is the founder of Legacy Sports Management and Media, an athlete infrastructure and development firm built from lived experience, not theory. Jeremy is a former D1 and professional athlete who lived the full athlete life cycle, from recruitment and performance to exposure and the abrupt question of what's next. After sports, he didn't just move on. He built and operated multiple ventures spanning elite athlete performance, brand development and NIL strategy, media and storytelling, and long-term career transition. In addition to leading Legacy Sports Management and Media, Jeremy serves as National Director of Athletic Development at Barwis Performance, where he spent over a decade designing systems that help athletes build leverage, clarity, and opportunity beyond competition. Jeremy's tagline says it all: under new management, legacy redefined, and those are with hashtags. He's not just managing athletes, he's redefining what athletes' infrastructure looks like when it's built from lived experience instead of boardroom theory. We're diving into the truth behind what it really takes to build identity, discipline, and legacy in sports and in life. So let's get into it. Welcome to the Standard Podcast. Jeremy, you're an absolute rock star. We appreciate you joining us.
Thanks for having me, guys. I really appreciate it.
Right on. So let's start here. You are the founder of Legacy Sports Management and Media, an athlete infrastructure firm built from lived experience, not theory. What does raising the standard mean to you in the work you're doing?
Raising the standard is pretty simple, but it's elevating the expectations and holding everyone associated accountable, something that is started to decline over the last couple of years in all sports. So, it's just our way of making sure that we're developing these athletes holistically. We're preparing for life after sport, not just the competitive years while they're playing, and making sure that they're in a position to achieve and sustain the same level of success,
Right.
once the cleats and shoes are hung up.
Gotcha. And what would you say is the biggest lie or misconception you feel the culture of the sports industry has sold athletes about life after sport, career transition, and what happens when the game is over?
The biggest misconception is that, it goes on as if it never ended. I mean, it's funny because I had a conversation today and I said, look, the average college athlete has had things done for them for the better part of 8 years, right? 4 years of high school, 4 years of college. And if they're lucky, they go on to play, pro sports for however long. And then when it ends, the stuff stops getting done for them. They have to learn how to do it themselves. So the misconception is that, that life is easy, in the real world. And the reality is that it's not. It comes at you fast. It comes at you hard. It's unpredictable. And we got to do a better job of making sure that these young men and women are prepared for just that, the unpredictability of real life.
No question. No question. You live the full athlete lifestyle or life cycle, Division I, professional, and then the abrupt question of what's next. What did that experience do to shape why and how you built Legacy Sports Management and Media?
Well, just like I just mentioned, when it's over, it's over.
Right.
And for the vast majority of athletes, 18 to 22, 23 years old, we can speak to it because we were once that. We feel like we can play forever, and we're often reluctant to plan for the end before we get there. It's what's next for me was a difficult period in my life, having to disassociate from being the football player and now just being Jeremy. And for me, unfortunately, I didn't do the best job of preparing for it. But luckily, I had people who loved me and cared about me, the person around me, to help me, get out of the grief and the depression that was often associated with it, and bounce back with a clear structure and a clear head and a plan to help me achieve, help me realize and help me actualize my potential.
Awesome. Yeah, this isn't the first time we've heard this from former professional athletes. How long would you say that you were in that funk, or let's call it an identity crisis? How long were you in it, and what actually got you out of it?
I was in it for the better part of a year, maybe a little bit longer.
Wow.
It's tough because you hear football players talk about it all the time. It's we're a little different because I think you've heard me refer to us as being actual gladiators, right? We put on this armor, we play behind a helmet, we're in these big arenas, and everybody's watching us, but they're watching us in costume, I'm in character. And I often say that as a football player, the person you are on the field cannot exist off the field, otherwise you'd be behind bars. So it takes a very long time to kind of shake that alter ego. It takes an even longer time to really figure out who you are without that armor, without that helmet. And for me, having had friends and teammates and even a sibling who went through that process of going from a football player to a former football player, I understood that the only way to get through it was to go through it. I wasn't in a rush to make any fast or harsh, rash decisions. I needed to make sure that I had closure so that I can move forward with purpose.
Gotcha. That's awesome. And we're going to turn it over segment 2 to Aaron, which is identity and legacy. Aaron, take it away.
Okay, it's my turn. I love this. Okay, it's me. It's Aaron.
Take it easy on me.
That's right. So I want to know, and I want our audience to know, I want you to just tell us, who is Jeremy Campbell beyond all the things that you and Thomas have just been talking about? Who are you?
First and foremost, I'm a child of God. I believe in a higher being, and my Lord and Savior has been with me and guided me through some of the darkest times of my life. And he's ushered me to what I feel now is some of the brightest times of my life. Aside from that, I am a husband. I am a father of two children who are my heart, my soul, my world, my purpose. I am a man of faith, a man of vision, a man of direction, and a man of action. I think when we first met, I told you guys that when it comes to my ventures, whether it's business ventures or personal, professional relationships, I like to move with clear intention, clear direction, and with speed. And that's kind of, how I live my life today. I try to maximize the moment and make sure that I'm getting the most out of this ride that I can, making sure that I'm leaving my impact so that when all said and done, when people speak about me and my role and what I did, they can actually say that I left it a lot better than how I found it.
That's awesome. That actually leads perfectly into my next question. So your tagline is under new management and legacy redefined. So what does that mean? And what does legacy beyond the game mean to you? Not only for yourself, which you just described, but how do you help instill that in the athletes that you work with?
Yep. So under new management is simple. It's we brought a different approach to managing today's athlete. With the inception of NIL and everything, what it meant to be an athlete agent or an athlete manager kind of got watered down. And for us, this was our chance to really show and lead by example what it means to provide true holistic management on and off the field. So, as you know, my business entities are intertwined, and a big part of what we do is the training and development. So we have the resources and the ability to actually make athletes better, but then I have the experience and the education to make them better people and better business-minded, better life-minded people after sport. So that's what the under new management means. Legacy redefined. For the longest time, legacy is often been referred to as what you leave behind. And my perspective is a little bit different. It's legacy is about what you're doing while you're here. It's about the impact and the visibility that you have while you're still living and breathing and interacting with other people. And those are the things that are important to me, is just making sure that, we don't have to leave this earth to be remembered or recognized for doing good or having impact. So with our athletes, with our clients, we just make sure that, we're taking advantage of our platforms, we're taking advantage of our visibility and our notoriety. I mean, we're doing things to have that legacy-like effect now and not just 50 years from now.
That is so important because I think you're right. A lot of people think about it after you're gone. Like, how are people going to remember me? Well, you're not going to be here to know. So
Right.
that's not that's not really what you want. So I love that so much. You have spent decades designing systems that help athletes build leverage, clarity, and opportunity beyond competition. What separates athletes who successfully transition from those who struggle when the game ends?
It's simple. The ones that have the successful transition are the ones that are preparing for the end before the end comes. I'm a firm believer in preparing for that because I lived it. I was the example of somebody who wasn't prepared for life after sport. So, if I could take my lived experience and help create programs and offerings and opportunities for these young men and women to think about the end before they get there and to be prepared. And again, we talk about it on our calls before, it's a grieving process, right? A part of you essentially dies. That's expected, right? You've earned the right to grieve that identity loss. But where the misfortune occurs is when we grieve and there's no next step. We have to figure that part out. So for us, for me, I'm a firm believer in, you begin with the end in mind, and in between the beginning and the end, we start to prepare for that moment so that when it happens, we go through it, we get through it, and then we move on and become better.
I think that's so important. I think sometimes, you said it so perfectly there that I think you react to what's happening to you versus like actually going, what do I want this to look like? Knowing that day eventually is going to come. So this is my favorite question I love to ask everybody. What's one truth you wish every athlete, parent, or coach understood about athlete infrastructure, career transition, and building beyond competition?
One truth, it's pretty obvious. We can't play forever. And just like everything in life, the better you prepare, the better the actual event or outcome will be. It's a simple saying. It's a simple process to repeat and understand. It's very difficult to execute, but again, that's why yourself with the right people, having the proper plan, and having the people that hold you accountable to that plan are essential to the success and the outcome.
I love that. So well said. Who's your team that you got building with you? Okay, Thomas, you get to take it back over.
Right on, Jeremy. We're going to get in segment 3, advice across all stages. So you played at Rutgers and you went through the recruitment process. If you could sit down with yourself as a young D1 athlete, how did you go through the recruiting process, and what advice would you give a young football player or athlete, and how did you choose Rutgers?
So for me, gosh, you guys are putting me on the spot. It was so long ago, and I think at the tender age of 44, the young men and women that we're involved in developing often refer to me as grandpa or unc or this or that, reminding me that my recruitment happened in this ancient time called the 1900s. So I was a pretty highly recruited athlete. I think where I had the advantage, I have an older brother who played big time college football at University of Alabama in the late 80s. So when it was my time to be recruited, it wasn't new. The family had been through it once. So I think that definitely helped out. I think the piece of advice that I can give myself is, again, the theme of this conversation is, think about the end. College sports were tough back then. They're even tougher now because the recruiters and teams have access to more information about talent. Back when we played, they had to rely on us sending them VHS tapes about our highlights and press clippings and publications that were published once a quarter. In today's landscape, everything is in real time. So it's super important to think about when you're going through your recruitment process to think about, if you didn't play a sport, obviously, would you see yourself fitting in at that school? And I think, a lot of times guys and girls get caught up with the level and the status. I want to go, I want to play D1, not understanding that that might be great. That might be what you think you want to do, but understand that, number one, if you're D1 caliber, a D1 school is going to find you. It's rare in today's era of information, data, and analytics that they're going to overlook talent.
No doubt.
Number two, you might be good in your state. And for me, I played in the Northeast. I played in New Jersey. It's, despite what people think, New Jersey is a hotbed for football talent. So we had to be very good to receive a Division I scholarship, but understanding that once you get to that Division I level, everybody's good, right? Everybody works hard. Everybody's gifted athletically. It comes down to a bunch of things. The most important being work ethic, a commitment to bettering yourself on and off the field. I'm sure you have stories, but I remember vividly of guys who were undoubtedly better than everybody on that team, but they couldn't cut it academically.
That's right.
So those athletic gifts were not able to be used.
Yeah.
So it's super important to think about the fit, from an athletic standpoint, but also from an academic standpoint, understanding that you want to use the recruitment and hopefully the scholarship to give yourself an advantage, not while you're 18 or 19, but, when you're 24, 25, 30 years old, that's what's important. Sure. In terms of why I picked Rutgers, it was simple. Again, I have an older brother who played college football at University of Alabama. That distance was tough for a family to go see him play. Me staying home, me staying in state in New Jersey allowed my family to see me play, very often. At the time, Rutgers was in the Big East, and it was a very competitive conference. All of those Miami teams, 2001, 2003, the Pittsburghs, the VTechs, the Syracuse, it was just really, really good football, really good opportunity to prove that, if I wanted to try to go to the next level, I played against a competition that would justify that. So those are some of the things that kind of fell into my decision-making process athletically, and then academically. Rutgers is a great academic institution, one of the best in the country academically. So that degree from that school meant a lot to me. It was an honor to receive it. It was a true testament of who I was as a person, a gifted athlete, but also a gifted student.
No doubt. You brought up an interesting point about D1 athletics. And I say that because that used to be the dream of young football players, was to go play D1. Mm-hmm. But now one of the things Aaron and I find is a lot of athletes are motivated by NIL. They're motivated by, you've heard us say, I just got to get a bag. And I say, so you're not even motivated by the sport anymore. So you work with athletes on brand development and NIL strategy. What should athletes know about building their brand while they're still competing?
Again, it's the constant theme of the conversation, right? Is start with the end in mind. And the reality is that in today's world, a personal brand is not only beneficial for athletes, but it's beneficial for people, for business professionals. You look at a lot of the CEOs of Fortune 500 companies, they have very strong personal brands.
Sure.
So your personal brand is your reputation. It's what you're known for outside of what you do. It can open doors for you just like your athletic abilities. When it comes to being able to utilize that personal brand to take advantage of, some of the things that are being afforded to today's college athlete, like NIL, again, companies want to invest in people that have influence and people that have following. And at its definition, that's what a brand is. It's a following of an individual or an ideology that brings people together. So for these athletes, I think, taking advantage of it, whether you're playing D1 or D3, if you're thinking about long-term and what the power of the personal brand does, as a high school student, it can help you be recruited to the college of your choice. As a college athlete that's about to graduate, it can help you land that job that can help you jumpstart your life after sport.
Sure. So what are your thoughts as far as the transfer portal goes, the blessing and the curse of the portal?
As you've heard me say before, the transfer portal is a good thing. The transfer portal combined with NIL has slowly dismantled and deconstructed all the good things that I believe athletes are supposed to get from sport, like hard work, dedication, perseverance, dealing with adversity. It's, in essence, acted as a trapdoor, giving guys and girls the opportunity to avoid competition, avoid rolling up their sleeves and fighting and scrapping and clawing for what they want. I hate to sound like that guy, but again, at 44, I'm probably that guy when it comes to the athletes talking about back in the day. But when you and I played, transferring wasn't an option unless you wanted to sit out a year.
Right.
So if you didn't like the situation that you had at your present university, we had to roll up our sleeves, train harder, compete harder, prepare better, and really make that an opportunity. So the transfer portal, there is some good. I do believe that athletes should have the freedom to rectify maybe a bad decision in terms of choosing a school or a poor decision, or, hey, if they've had some changes that created an environment that wasn't to their liking, after they arrived on campus on the team, they should definitely be allowed to change and pursue another opportunity. Where I have the issue is when guys basically sign one-year contracts and use the portal to chase financial opportunity for 4 or 5 years. That dilutes the game. It's robbing them of experiencing all the good things from being a college athlete. And most importantly, it's kind of setting the wrong stage and painting the wrong picture of what life is going to be like after sport, where you're constantly chasing something that you shouldn't be chasing for the.
Okay, I just lost you there for a second. Sorry about that, Jeremy. You're back now, and we're going to click it over to segment 4, which was the rapid fire round. We'll turn that back over to Aaron. Aaron, take it away.
Okay, Jeremy, you're going to finish my sentence. This is super quick, super fast. It's fun. Okay, so discipline equals
Success.
leadership equals
Leadership also equals leadership equals. Leadership equals success. Leadership equals discipline. They all coincide.
What about faith? What does faith equal?
Faith equals trust.
I love it. Legacy equals
Legacy equals what's important to you.
and what is one thing you would never compromise on?
My integrity.
And what is one message, if you could put it on a billboard for athletes, what would it be?
Begin with the end in mind.
Begin with the end in mind, kids. If you're in high school, think of the end and work your way back. I love it.
It goes fast. It goes fast. 4 years goes very fast.
Yep. Yeah. We're parents. And yeah, I have an 18-year-old and I'm like, I just had you. No, just kidding. You're graduating from high school. So
it's funny because the older we get, the faster those 4 years go.
Yes. High school goes by in a blink. And it's like, where did that go? Yeah. So, okay, Thomas, you're back up. That's how fast we were.
Awesome, Jeremy. We're getting into our final segment 5 in closing. Final couple questions. Before we wrap up, is there something we didn't touch on today that you feel like athletes, parents, or coaches need to hear about athlete infrastructure, career transition, NIL, transfer portal, or building beyond competition?
Yeah, I think the only thing that we didn't touch on was just how much of a family mission it is. These athletes don't deserve to have to go through any of this by themselves. And what I've found is that the athletes that have the support system and the structure around them, the support circle, the people that influence good decisions, good behaviors, good character, are often the athletes that have the most success in the process.
Got it. All right, Aaron, taking you through the rapid fire. Now I'm going to put you on the hot seat. I think we've talked about this before. What are Jeremy's top 3 sports movies of all time?
Top 3 sports movies. The Program.
Right.
Any Given Sunday.
Okay.
You got to remember, I'm a dad of a 5-year-old, so Little Giants has been on consistently. I'm not sure if I'm ready to put that in the top three. I would say you can throw in. I'm a Rocky guy. You can throw in the Rocky series.
Oh,
to
yeah.
round it out.
Totally. Absolutely. I thought you were going to go trifecta with just all football, but yeah, there's so many great.
I was thinking, I was thinking Friday Night Lights, but I'm like, you know what? We got 2 quality football movies in those top 3. Let's mix it up a little bit.
Totally. I mean, from mine, it's always been Miracle, Rocky #2, and Hoosiers #3. And
Yep.
the honorable mention is the program. Not a lot of younger kids know about that. And
I know.
It's a good one to like pull out, like you said, on VHS. I think that's
Yeah.
I got a copy of it on VHS.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Jeremy, our last question, where can people get a hold of you, whether it's your website, your social media, or just an email address?
Sure. Website is lsmm.marketing. A social handle, my personal page where you can learn more about my coaching, about my agency, my management is on Instagram. It's j.campbell44. And then email address obviously is jeremy@lsmm.marketing.
Got it. You know what? I'm going to ask you one more question because we had this conversation with somebody else. Obviously 44 was your jersey number.
Yep.
Do you have any superstitions around sports? Did you have anything where like you had to wear this jersey or you had to put your right shoe on first or any idiosyncrasies?
Yeah. I mean, look, I wore the same shirt under my shoulder pads. Gosh, it was a shirt that I received at a camp that I got.
Yep.
Got noticed that. So a shirt that I got a hold of in 1996, and I wore that under my shoulder pads all the way through 2010. So that was my superpower. If I didn't wear it, I felt like I was going to play poorly. In terms of other superstitions, to this day, I always put on my left shoe first. I don't know why. It's one of those things where if I try to do it the other way, it just doesn't work. And then here's something also shocking is I have to go sock shoe. I can't go sock shoe.
So right now there's some kid listening going, thank God, I thought I was.
Yeah. You're not alone. That's alone.
Right. That is right. Because you always think about baseball players that have these, bizarre idiosyncrasies or OCDs, but it transcends to all sports. I mean, we've had hockey players, basketball players, everybody talks about whatever little system they have. Hey, look, if it works, it works.
If it works, it works.
Awesome. Jeremy, thank you for sharing your story and your truth today. We really appreciate it. And if this conversation challenged you, team, or inspired you, do a couple things for us. One, share it. Send it to an athlete preparing for life after sport, a parent helping their kid think beyond the game, or a coach developing athletes for the long term. And get a hold of Jeremy. We're going to put his contact information in the show notes, but he is definitely a resource to help you get to the next level, whatever that looks like for you. This is a Standard podcast, and this movement only grows when we raise the standard together. Talent fades, but truth endures. Let's raise the bar. Let's rebuild the culture. Let's become the standard. And we'll see you next time. Jeremy, Aaron, thank you so much for your time and joining us today. We'll see you next week.
Thanks for having me.